Testing, testing, testing. Hello there, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy morning. Good morning, good morning. Happy rising, grand rising.
I think I've heard grand rising. Right. Yep.
Grand rising. Let us rise above the negative programming and the negative matrix. And let us ascend up to the original matrix and the original intention by the true creator and the source of all as well. Hopefully we will be connecting with some wonderful, amazing people here shortly. Let us see, let us see.
Finding us. There we are. I found us.
You found us.
Okay, I found. There's William.
Will.
Hello.
Good to see you, Will. KK in the house.
KK in the house. Hello, hello.
Yes, it is. We have connection. We have liftoff.
Yes.
Take
Jenny
us
Pace.
higher, Jenny Pace.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Love the flowers, love the emojis. They're always happy. Places you can't go. There's Robbie. Hello. There's KK with more hearts. I like the hearts. They're fun.
Awesome. Robbie's in the house. So it's an exciting day here as we get back to normalcy and, blessings and thankfulness and gratitude, because I do feel, in some ways, it's wild. I feel better than ever. I mean, I really do. I feel cleansed. I feel purged. I feel focused and clear.
Sometimes things just have to happen. And then afterwards you see, oh, that's why that had to happen. And even though the darkness does their best, the light always has a plan and it will outshine the darkness. So we look at that and do our best. But speaking of hearts, when I was little, I was exposed to hearts, right? And I knew I had a heart in my chest. Hi, Carolina Dream. Howdy, howdy. I knew that I had a heart, but I didn't know that it looked so yucky inside of my body. So,
It's okay. I'm sorry.
So in my very first science class, I saw what the human heart looked like. I was mortified. I'm like, that's not it. There's our special K. Sunny greetings, everyone. Yay. Yes, we're all here. Yeah, I mean, speaking of shapes and forms and stuff, it's like they program you to think that a heart looks the way it does, but then it's, it has a beauty in its own way, especially if it's healthy. I guess you could enjoy looking at a healthy heart, but it's still an organ. And why do we teach kids that heart looks like something that it doesn't? I don't know. C-Dub. Morning, everyone. Grand rising to you. Yeah, I hope so, Robbie. We're trying to do the good ones, following our hearts, following, and Amanda, Miss Amanda. Great to see you. Yeah, following our hearts, following our energy, putting out there what we feel that people really need during this time, because it's definitely not an easy time. We have some very difficult planetary placements right now. And I mean right now. We have to get through it. So we're still probably going to experience certain things. It's not that we can ever get away from our experiences if that's what we're supposed to experience it, but how we see it and the lens we view it through can be different.
Yes, absolutely. And again, thank you guys so much for being here. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. It's been an honor and privilege. 8 years doing this. 8 years. Thousands of videos. Thousands and thousands of videos. So we wanted to talk about some of the coding in the universe, the natural universe. First, I just wanted to mention, we did this one last night. This was lesson 10, realizing superhuman potential, understanding your personal doshas. What is your elemental makeup? How do you work to strive and find balance when you know this? I think this is, again, one of those key pieces of understanding that we don't necessarily have conversations with our doctor about. Yeah, I mean, this is part of what's been missing. I think what this experience has shown me with spending time in the hospital, going through emergency surgery, and all that. It was really a little bit of a lesson in letting go for me, and also understanding the bigger picture. That there's so many people that are just trying to do the right thing, trying to help people, full of love, doing their best to help people, and they might not understand that some of the knowledge they've been given has a particular slant to it. But I think they're willing to learn. I think most people are willing to learn. If we can integrate, the East and the West, if we could find the best of both worlds, and again, start to live a more spiritual life, not a dogmatic life, but a life centered around the fact that this is one big, huge spiritual revelation that we're going through each day. We could change this world so quickly. One person who I know has been subscribed to us for at least like 6-7 years said, where's the evidence that we really changed yugas back in 2024, April 8th? Well, again, that sounds to me like the system. The system wants to say, where's the evidence? Because I think we've done a pretty good job at wiping it all away, but let us know if we missed something. This is exactly what the system does, because they've planted their evidence all over the place to debunk anything that's really, really happening that shows they're losing power and losing control. And this is just what they do. And so, the evidence lies within. You have to go for your own. And again, each one of us is being asked a very important question at this point in time. Are you truly going to try to ascend? Or are you going to just stay wallowing in the mud? It really is an individual choice. It's up to each one of us. But the thing to take into consideration at this time is, I do think, oh man, if you work on yourself, if you really, really work to become the very best you, the sky is such the limits at the turning of the yugas. We have more potential than ever right now. It's just, to me, it's so incredibly exciting.
Mm-hmm. I think, when it comes to judgment of our emotions and our feelings and where we're at, and having pleasure and having pain, all of the frequencies and all of the energies work together. You cannot have one without the other. So I don't think it's fair to rise one up higher than the other. They are all extremely, extremely important. So in that sense, yes, we are at where we are at, and that is what we are to work with. But we're dealing with things like shame. Shame has a past to it. And a lot of times we have to go back and visit that past and see, okay, why am I here? Why am I going through this? What exactly is going on? And give yourself the same love and understanding that you would give a friend. If you have a certain reaction or a certain trigger, that doesn't make you bad. That doesn't make you bad at all. It just means that, okay, this thing really hurts. Ouch, I need to see what it is. But to think about, as much pain as we can be in this world, that's the measure of how much pleasure and joy and love you can feel too. We could, if we didn't have the pain and we didn't have the agony, if we didn't have the defeat, we wouldn't understand how good winning feels. We wouldn't understand how joyful joy truly is. So they really owe each other a debt of gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. So this is Heart's Home. I was looking at some information coming from Heart's Home, and one of the things that hit me was some of the most successful videos over there have been the music, and it's just me, who is not a very good guitarist, but putzing around trying to provoke emotions and trying to find something that resonates with my soul to share with you, something that brings peace to me, as I have found that there's less and less music that I truly love. I mean, I could listen to a little bit of some stuff from the 80s and 90s and 70s and get excited and think, back about happy times or, fun nostalgia. I love nostalgia. I love trivia. I love all these things. Yet, what do I really want to saturate myself in? Well, it really isn't all the mainstream at all. And then it's hard to find music that lifts you up. So I always tune to 432 hertz and try to play stuff that is I find soothing, and I want to help you soothe. And when we do this, then we have the added power of Cindy doing her biofield tuning and sending in her frequencies and intentions to help you guys too. So by listening to this music, you might find that it's lifting you up and it's clearing away negative energy. About 15 years ago, I started to listen to people like Deva Premal. Maybe it was a little bit more even, but Deva Premal and Snedham Kaur and many others in the kirtan circuits and in these more mild, gentle, ambient type music ventures that often incorporated Vedic mantras. And what I found was I was getting happier and happier. It was wild. I mean, I'm playing it in the background, not even paying attention to it. And I am getting happier and happier. And I am feeling more and more positive. And it's just simply because it's going in the background. Again, we're being bathed in different frequencies all the time. The entire planet is. And before we move forward with this, I thought this was significant enough to talk about. This is what I view as the diamond that Ryo Tatsuki had mentioned in her vision. And I don't mean to pull down frequencies, just actually to utilize your consciousness to send energy into the area that, again, any energy release that needs to happen be released in a gentle way, in a non-violent way. There's 20 quakes right over here, and they're all kind of in the same spot. Now, this is the area that she had a vision going way back, I think it was in the 90s, where she saw a literal earthquake that changed the entire landscape of this area and literally perhaps creates a land bridge from mainland China to Taiwan, perhaps even to Philippines and to Japan. So I want to just ask you guys to send in positive, soothing energies into the earth. May Gaia release the energy she needs to release in a manner in which it doesn't claim any life. Let us send those intentions out, because I know Joni Petrie has also looked at the astrology. Cindy's looked at the astrology. And absolutely, it seems like all the potential is there for something very, very major over the next 3-4 days. Yet I don't think it has to be a massive loss of life. I think this is where our consciousness can shift something so that maybe, the epicenter changes. Maybe there is no big tsunami. Maybe it's a 1 to 3 foot wave that comes in. And maybe it's actually a series of quakes that release the steam instead of a big one.
Right. I don't think that you can change fate. I don't think you can change destiny. But I do believe that you can change how we pass through it and how we go through these things and how we experience challenges. We cannot control anything on the outside of us. All we can do is work on the inside of us. And hopefully that's a thing that is going to pull you through. And, I can say when Mike got so sick, it really threw me. I mean, it really, really, really threw me. And I cannot say enough about how my spiritual practice, although he was he was right in front. I was taking care of him every moment, every second. My spiritual practice carried me through. It carried me through. We were destined to go through that. That's not something that could have been changed. But what did we change? We changed our perspective on everything, which really helped me sail through. Now, I'm still having struggles. There's still trauma. I had to go through a lot, but you look at it and it's all expansion. Just like all the things that I had gone through earlier in life, every single thing that I went through, as awful as it was, it brought me some amazing expansion that I would not trade back for the world. So, we just need to pray. We need to put our spiritual practice to use, put it to work, and, just so to allow things to flow as smoothly as they can.
Yes, absolutely. Because now is the time for us to use our source given creative abilities to manifest the more positive outcome. Again, there's some things like Cindy said, when you look at this, it may be that there has to be a huge energy release here. But if the energy release is somewhere over here, as opposed maybe the energy release can be out here, then maybe it can be something that doesn't claim as many lives and causes much damage, yet releases the same amount of energy. This is where our consciousness can be put into play. We see that we are living in a manufactured realm. This realm is created. There is the fact that science ever gave us that we don't know, it's a great mystery. What was that analogy with, you have so many monkeys banging so many notes, they're going to come up with Beethoven or Mozart eventually. Oh, no, I don't buy that for a second. Absolutely. This is being all guided from above. Yes, there are higher intelligences and higher dimensions that are bringing this reality to us. The natural matrix, it is a top-down creation. It's not a bottom-up creation. Yet at the same time, what happens here does affect the higher realms. So, again, there is karmic law, which is a byproduct of this natural matrix. And we can utilize tools in the natural matrix to help ourselves, to lift ourselves up.
There's a lot of tools that we can use. Patterning is so very, very important, and that's one thing I utilize in my work is patterning. I bring people to the brand new patterning that they were when they were born. And if you had a traumatic birth, we can rectify that as well. And what does that do for you? It makes your world smoother. Like things that are going to happen to you that are already predestined, it changes the way you experience them. Now, can you jump timelines? Can you shift timelines if you have a tuning? I believe in a weird way you can. Because in some cases, what I have seen people do after a tuning is they might lose their keys. And for 10 minutes, they're, late for work. A lot of things are going wrong, but they have lost their keys. And they find their keys. They finally get to the car and they get out the driveway just to find out that there was a huge accident. And had they had been there at that time, they would have been in that accident. So in that sense, I feel tunings can change timelines in a way. And also, people, just things happening for people that just go smoother. It's that lubrication in life that we need when we are tuned and we are singing a more authentic frequency. Things just go better. So there's so much we can do with just simple tuning and simple patterning. I almost don't even like to call it simple because it's very profound what goes on.
You can repattern yourself. And again, epigenetics, that's one of my favorite topics. I love the the understanding of epigenetics. So, again, we're taught in Western medical science that you might have inherited some limitations, some problems. MTHFR gene, for instance, which has been called the mother bleeper gene. If you have it, you're just kind of, no, you can overcome. You can overcome anything. This is part of what we're here for, is to overcome. When you look at the fact that we're 65 to 80% water, depending on our level of hydration and our age, then water, we know, is programmable. Quite simply, you could literally write love, tape it to a bowl of water, a cup of water, and just that word's going to change the patterns in the water. Think about when we saturate ourselves with pop music all day long. If you're saturating yourself with Lady Gaga and all these different things, that's such negative programming that's going into our system, and it's affecting us at a cellular level. Now you shift that and you start to send in solfeggio frequencies, the frequency of Vedic mantras. You're going to find that is shifting the literal programming of your physical body And that will in turn shift your emotions. It was so clear to me when I started to shift my patterns of what I was exposing myself to musically. My whole outlook on life changed. I mean, I became less negative. I became more positive. I literally became happier. I found that I was wanting to help other people more and more. And this is how we shift paradigms. When you look at the flower of life, Drunvalvo Melchizedek wrote a book like 30 years ago or so, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, which we still have a copy of here. It shows that we live in a fractal system. And so the reality of a fractal multiverse, because our universe is just a single cell. It's just a single cell in the bigger reality. And there's so many different densities. There are so many different individuated units of consciousness that abound in creation. It's limitless. You can't even begin to count them. So yeah, we've never been alone. There are beings that walk through you every single day. Now, as you go into this yuga, where's the evidence that we've changed yugas? Well, look to people's psychic abilities, for one. They're going to go through the roof. Look at the way we view the universe. It's going to change. This evidence is there already for everybody that can see. And yeah, in this circle with you guys, we probably are exhibiting more change than maybe the totality of the populace out there. Yet there are some that are even changing faster than us. It's not a race. It's not a competition. We just want to shift the paradigm. What you're going to find is that people, as time goes on, they're not going to accept the system that is anymore. We're just not going to accept it. We're going to wake up and say, hey, you're selling me on choice A, or you're trying to sell me on choice B. You may even have a choice C in mind, or a D even. But the reality is we choose none of the above. We want something different. We want to go back to the original pattern, the original planning of this matrix. And so when you look at nature, you'll find that you could find proof of the fractal nature of the universe all around us. I always find it fascinating that when you look at the guys in the crypto markets, what are they basing everything on? The Fibonacci. They're basing it all on Fibonacci sequences when they're looking to say, well, we're going to buy over here, we're going to sell over there, we might end up buying more over here, we might sell more over there. It's all based on patterns and fractals and on the programming of the natural matrix. The universe is an infinite multidimensional system of fractal patterns. This gives us great insight into how we can start to manifest our best reality. Sacred geometry. As you can see, it truly is the science of creation. And we can start to create worlds. And when we understand that every single thought, action, and deed, it gets magnified out there. So if we've lived most of our life unknowingly helping to manifest a web of control over us, literally adding to it because that's what we were taught. Well, now if all of a sudden we realize that and we start doing the opposite, we start manifesting freedom, true knowledge, and true potential to change everything about this reality out there into the universe. And as fractals, we start sending out this positive energy that then gets magnified as we go on, as we look at the magic of numbers. Tesla's 369, and we see the patterns, the fractal nature. It shows intelligent design, and we're taking back this matrix for ourselves.
Yeah, Tuffy says, very interesting video. I love it when you guys pull us into the hidden lore. Yeah, and I'm kind of tired of things being hidden, but wait until we start teaching energy work. It's going to get even more interesting because we have worked on a lot of people. We have had a lot of direct experiences. So things that we teach, you're probably not going to find out of a book. You're going to find that we have learned from direct experience. So that's a lot of fun. We are rolling around the idea of writing a book too and creating creating classes. So that's where we're at right now. And to change the trajectory, like Mike said, it's like we want something different. But what exactly is different? What do we want? I think we go through life and we think we want something. So we get the something, and then maybe you didn't want that something. So I think we're in that place right now. We're trying to figure out, well, what do I want? And figuring that out is just, it's so priceless, knowing yourself, understanding yourself, because you can't poo-poo all of the technology when it brings us together and it helps us talk about things and figure things out. And we're able to work on people on a quantum level. We're able to do healings at a quantum level. All of these things, the technology allows us to come together. But there's polarity. There's good and bad in everything. So we have to keep that in mind. AI, as frightening as it is, it's helping people see again. It's helping people walk again. It's giving people a voice. People, otherwise they would not be able to talk. So, I mean, I cannot poo-poo everything that's out there that's technology-wise, because I use it to make my life better, and I use it to try to share my experiences to help make your life better.
You know, we've talked about this, and we've gotten definitive answers from the guides that the Earth is expanding. The Earth is expanding. Let that just sit there for you. So here you go. This person is, and I'm not saying that this is the correct correlation in sizes from 7,000 years ago to 8 years ago, but the reality is the Earth is expanding. It is. And so this perhaps contributes some to the mud flood and the theory of mud flood. As again, what does a baby do? A baby grows, right? A baby grows. You know, when we look to, and this is where we find our truths. Cellular mitosis is basically how we have the growing pattern of an infant. Mitosis is the process of cell division or reproduction that produces cloned daughter cells, not natural. There are 4 main stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. Before mitosis, a cell will grow, replicate its DNA, and prepare for mitosis. Is the Earth in this? And this is, wow, I totally went off on a tangent here, guys, but this is what my mind does. So we know we have one cell that gets bigger, and then it splits into 2. And then, the 2, each one of them will get bigger, and then they'll split again. And so all of a sudden, from 1, we have 4. And then the 4 will split again. And you see how the progression goes. This is a very, very interesting clue to our reality on the macro level. If you want to look at this in a micro level. So when I'm talking about the Earth expanding, we know that you can fit all the continents pretty much together. There is some missing space, but it's interesting how they will come together nice and tidy. And yet, we've had all these cataclysms. We have cataclysms on a 12,000-year cycle. Again, this is corresponding to the cycle of the yugas. And when we also drop low enough in frequency that we lose our good guides, and the only guides we have are those that have very, very greedy, selfish ideas, unfortunately. So, yeah, absolutely. The Earth is expanding. And what about that cellular mitosis part? Well, I think that what you have with that is a level of frequency. It really, really simply is all about frequency. And this is one of the great mysteries that, is always something I'm meditating on. So this is a little tangent that I just thought I would share. When you look to how, again, cells split. They get larger, then they split, and then they keep doubling. And again, this is the flower of life itself. So do I think this is some sort of nasty programming of the dark matrix? No, this is the natural matrix. The dark matrix is always copying the natural matrix, but that's all it can do, is to copy.
We have, yeah, the mimicry, but the mimicry is pretty bad, and I think it's in full force right now because they are using the AI as an intuitive muscle, and I see AI assisting a lot of people, and I don't like the AI helping people through spirituality because I think there's a hidden hand there, and I think they're kind of moving people the way they want them to. So, you have to look at everything where it has both good and bad.
Yes, yes. And when you look to this, what, what does this do to you? Does it make you nauseous? Can you see how it would pull you in? I do have planned a video that we're going to do all about the shriantra. Because again, the shriantra, which we have a big one, it's about 4 by 6 foot, up in the bedroom on the wall, which creates a portal, an interdimensional portal that can be used to draw benevolent beings in, to draw you out to benevolent realms. Of course, the same thing could be done with darker twists, but this is again part of the fractal nature of the universe and of consciousness itself. We are already operating on other densities. You have just been cut off from yourself. This is what they've done. They've cut us off from ourselves. They've cut us off from our higher selves, and so they've tried to sort of, in some ways, have us shipwrecked on a deserted island where they could control the entirety of the narrative. And all of a sudden, hey, we realize, wait a minute, this is just an island. It's not the entire universe. We're not alone. There's somebody going by in the sky right now, or buying a ship, or maybe we even find that our island's much bigger than we even thought it was. This is part of the awakening. So I do think the time is ripe. And humanity is ready, and humanity, and when I say humanity, not every single individual, again, but a certain amount of people where we could have a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm. It's not easy out there because we still have to live in this world, and we still have to blend somewhat with the energy that's around us, and we still have to utilize what's out there. It's just, I think people are at least asking the question now.
Yes, yes, and while the whole concept of sacred geometry and how the universe really truly works can be overwhelming, when we start looking at it at a certain basic level, there is a simplicity there. There is a simplicity. Yeah, it's not like perhaps the Genesis story taken at face value. Not that simple, but at the same time, it's reassuring. When we look at everything, really what we have is the admixture of light and sound. Light is, again, gnosis, and sound is a key for manifesting. This is why when we do any sort of mantra, or if you want to do an affirmation, can you say it in your head? Yes, you could. Will it be more powerful if you vibrate it, really vibrate it, resonate it? Yes, I do believe it will be more powerful.
Mm-hmm. And sound has entropy. So we have entropy when we are born into this world. Our cells, they are growing, but they're still dividing and dying. But when you have sound, that pulls the antennas and it pulls the body together, and it just makes you one giant antenna to connect with your higher self or source. And this is what changes people's thought processes and thought patterns. There's trauma that happens, and when that energy outside of the body is left to just be kind of a pool or kind of like an eddy, you have the same thoughts over and over and over, and you're unable to break out of that. But that's where sound healing can help, because it breaks up that energy and it replaces it where it needs to go. So you take that tuning fork and you go through that energy, you repattern it, and then the energy suddenly knows, hey, I need to go to the solar plexus, or hey, I need to be in the pineal gland, or hey, I'm needed in the root chakra. But until you give it some patterning, a lot of times that energy just sits outside the body, and it spins and it spins and it spins, and it's stuck. And that spinning, that's our thoughts. So it's not that you are doing anything wrong. There is nothing wrong with you. We are not broken. But the system that we live in is not conducive to heal. They might fix things, they might put a band-aid on things and get you by a little ways, but it's not really healing. And all of us, no one is immune from this. No one is immune from going through certain emotional trauma in this system, because the inkling is to, just cover it up. Oh, that's ugly. Oh, let's cover it up. Let's just not look at it. I don't like to look at that. That's the automatic inkling. I don't want to go there. But you keep going back to the understanding that you cannot have one without the other. They both have purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we can see a lot into how this universe manifests when we look at this, and you see the Merkaba. The Merkaba is a vehicle to go through different dimensions. In fact, many UFO sightings, when you see a UFO that looks like a wheel within a wheel and spinning, often that is just simply the Merkaba of a being that's coming around, poking around, and looking at Earth and saying, I wonder what's going on over here.
Mm-hmm. They do. They do that a lot. They're kind of all over the place. And I notice when people are connected to their higher selves, they have more experiences with them.
Yes, absolutely. So Robbie was asking if anybody's seen Robert Gilbert's biogeometry stuff. Yeah, there's so many fabulous people that have been suppressed. Suppressed because they're really bringing the true knowledge of how the universe works and understanding how we can utilize that to help ourselves to grow. They want to give us lockdown, limited perspectives and make everything into a big mystery that only the official sources can control the narrative. It's all about power. In reality, it's just a parasitic system that's really a lower fourth density system, very, very limited frequency range that gives us the dark matrix. We are so far beyond that. We are so far beyond that. And the Earth is ready to shed that off like a flea. Absolutely. So, it's just fascinating when we could start looking into these things. The cube, element, Earth, root chakra, grounding. Yeah, when we see references to 4, fasting for 40 days, lost for 40 years, maybe we should do some biblical symbology. I know I've done probably half a dozen videos, mostly more like 5 to 8 years ago, on some of the symbolism. But when you see the Bible talking about seven lampstands, the 7 churches, the 7 in general is going to correlate on one level to the 7 main chakras in the body. And when we're talking about the 4 or the 40, then you're talking again about manifestation, bringing about into manifestation. When we see, 12 tribes of Israel, when we see the 12 apostles, corresponding to, again, 12 constellations in the zodiac, 12 months. This is all showing us, again, the imprint from the astrological standpoint. Oh, it's fascinating and it's freeing because, it is there. It's within grasp. When we look to so many of the different ET cultures, and we're going to go and explore and give more information in a series of videos coming up on each of the ET cultures and sharing what we know, like everything we know about the ant people, everything we know about the mantids, everything we know about the Arcturians, etc., etc. This will be another series that we're going to be going into in depth in the future. When you look at these beings, to them, this is not even kindergarten material. Yet this is just a given. This is how we can show how the universe works.
Right, and bring more understanding to that. Anything from the plants that we grow to the flowers that bloom. You don't have to tell the plants how to grow. You don't have to tell the flowers how to bloom. You don't have to tell a bird how to fly. These things just are, and we are that too.
So we see the platonic solids, the tetrahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, hexahedron, and dodecahedron. That, again, what we see is patterns and combinations, different patterns, different combinations that do everything from giving us our own DNA and chromosomes, to the literal building blocks of the universe. Again, this is fascinating stuff, and this is really what I really wanted to talk about this whole time. When we look at what we're given in our main religious systems, like the concept of original sin is about as low as you can go on the emotional scale. Shame and guilt, these are very low frequencies. These are not going to lift you high and help you to ascend. As you look at this, and now I did find a dozen of these different scales. Most of them are pretty much in agreement for the most part. And you see the lower emotions here. Shame, 20, ranks at 20, guilt 30, apathy 50, grief 75, fear 100, desire 125, anger 150, pride 175, courage 200, and then you have neutrality. Then willingness and acceptance, reason, love at 500, joy at 540, peace at 600, and enlightenment 700 plus as we go up the different scales. Think about what we're taught and why that has been used as a control grid. Because if you do believe in the whole concept of original sin, which is because you came into being in a body, there's something wrong with you that you have to atone for. That's as low as frequency as you can get. I mean, think about that. And when you hear that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, fear is very low frequency. When you think about why is the news always just negative, negative, negative? Because they want to keep you in a low frequency. They want you doing all that you can do to stay in a fear-based mentality where, again, perhaps you're boiling over with anger. They want to stoke your pride, which is a little bit higher than these other emotions, but it's still not a high emotion. Because when we're proud, I mean, you can be proud of your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your mother, for different things, for overcoming something. That's one thing. But when it's pride in a competitive manner, like we are saying that we are better than somebody else because we come from a certain place, that's not high frequency. That is not high vibration. That's not high frequency. That leads to a shelf, a cap, a limit on how high we can move upwards.
Well, there's a thing I think we need to guard against in the human ego, and that's like this vibrational snobbery. And you don't want to assume that you are better than someone else because you assume that you're at a certain frequency. I keep going back to saying shame has a past, it has a purpose, and each one of these emotions are very important to feel, because the more that you can feel into that and understand these lower, quote, lower emotions, the more you can feel and embrace and appreciate and love the higher vibrations. They both need each other. And in this life, I think we are called through the natural matrix too, to walk through things. I do feel that the darkness has hijacked a lot of this, and that they keep people down because people have guilt, they have shame, they have grief, they're in constant fear. If you turn on the news, it's fear, 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 fear. If we didn't have the news constantly telling us to be afraid, we'd be able to go up and we'd be higher and we'd be at a better frequency. So, it's just one plays off the other. We are definitely in a world where we need both. We absolutely need both. So here they are. They're here for us, and to honor each and every one of them and appreciate them. And when it comes to pain has its own frequency. It has its own body. When we sit with pain, I've heard in some places, well, pain is punishment. I don't believe that. I believe that pain has its purpose, and for as much grief, pain, fear, sorrow that you feel in this world, it's flipped on the other side when we are out of this body. It is no longer seen as a bad thing. So that gets you into perspective. So suddenly your perspective goes from shame, guilt, grief, fear, anger, pride, And it's flipped to say, whoa, I went through all of these things so I could expand, to this other place. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. So suddenly you're in a state of gratitude. But it's about flipping the narrative, but only when you're ready. Only when you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. So, honestly, when I was going into surgery, you never know, because you never know what could happen. But at the same time, I was extremely neutral, and I wasn't rolling through any what ifs, no what ifs. It was just, it was kind of an acceptance in so many different ways, and I was completely at peace. So, of course, I want to come back to Cindy. Of course, I feel like I'm nowhere done with what I wanted to do. In fact, I really feel like I'm just starting. Now I feel like we're truly just starting to step into our full function. As I always knew, what am I here for? I'm here to help guide people through what's going to be the most challenging period in hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's why I came. I know that's why I came. It's always been there in the back of my mind, and I could always hear the guides telling me, you came to guide people through, to navigate these times. In fact, it was interesting because Cindy saw a vision with Ganesh and this certain plant that looked to be very, very tropical. Well, that plant's here in this yard. So we were supposed to come here.
Elephant ears.
Yeah, the elephant ears. And so she saw us walking, I think, around with Ganesh in this, what looked to be tropical property. Now, we're not really tropical. We're at 33 degrees north. So we're subtropical. But at the same time, the plant is exactly the one that she saw. This is exactly where we're supposed to be at this point in time. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. You can get to that point from a myriad of different places. But if you constantly keep in mind that the higher frequency vibrations that are going to raise you upwards are those of, say, peace, love, and joy. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is where you can start to really shed so many ingrained fears and so many traumas. You have to get to that point. You have to acknowledge them, like Cindy was saying. You acknowledge the shame, the guilt, all these things, the fear, the grief. And even, when it comes to desires, I think desire is something that leads people a lot of times down a dark path. Are you in desire of something in order to become the very best version of you, to maybe have, the freedom and mobility to go around and do whatever you want to do. And again, having it in mind that what we're shifting into is unity consciousness. We're going to go away from I am. We know that we are. And we're moving away from necessarily the solar plexus and, the lower chakras, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. Again, the root chakra is all about stability. It's all about, earthiness, being embodied, etc. The sacral becomes your I wants, and the solar plexus is the I am. You need to have that developed, all of those functioning in a certain way. But then the heart's the bridge. The heart is the bridge to the higher realms. And so when we understand that, we can then start tapping into and bringing heaven to earth.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a minute because this is a good topic, I think, to bring up to people as far as, we don't want to engage in spiritual bypassing. We have to be very careful with that because we can automatically stunt our growth if we do that. And avoiding pain, it simply delays growth. So it's about figuring out, where did that trigger come from? Why is that inside of me? And rectifying it in a way that you can accept it and bring it in as part of you. And it's almost like a video game. When you bring in all of those pieces and you accept them and you find places for all those pieces, you level up. You definitely level up. You don't want to create a false sense of yourself and just glisten over everything and pretend that it's not there. that can really undermine who you are and your higher self. So, and it also blocks true enlightenment if you avoid these other emotions, if they're inside of you and you're not, it's going to send you off in a direction. So sometimes when we do energy work on people, it's not that we're going in and actually healing anything for them. People still have to do the work, but we hand them a flashlight so that they can see what work needs to be done. And sometimes they might find after a session that there's something in their life that is really, really bothering them, like this thorn in their side. It's just not going away. And they realize, oh, wow, I have to rectify this thing in my life. I cannot just continue to live with it and pretend it's not there. And it might be something really important, like your job. Something you really, really need, or your spouse, your partner. So, but it has to be looked at and it has to be rectified. It's like, what do you do with this thing to make it so that you still bring it unto yourself, but it's not pulling you down anymore? There's always a way. There's definitely always a way. So we want to give ourselves plenty of understanding and plenty of grace. So practice emotional honesty. That's something that you would want to do. And that's what I talk about. Okay, you find a thing that hurts, sit down and figure it out. And sometimes you need a friend. Sometimes you need a friend that you can fully trust to go over that thing, because bad things happen on this planet. People go through some pretty rough stuff, and we have to have somebody to talk to. So use spiritual tools that support your healing, not replace it. So the mantras, the meditations, all of those things supported me in going through what Mike went through, because he's taken care of me for all of these years. He's just done everything. I went through an awakening. It was really rough. I couldn't even drive. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't cook. He did everything for me, everything. And then when suddenly I didn't have him, it brought in all kinds of old demons. It's like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? Well, I knew exactly where it came from. It came from not having my spiritual practice, but I have that now. So I have healed now. So I used that spiritual practice not to ignore things, but to hold me up so I could get through things. So, and when it comes to spirituality, being human is probably the most spiritual thing you can do. I see a lot of people who want to escape the body, or they want to go here and they want to go there, and that's all good and normal, but we came here to be human. Let's not lose sight of that.
Yes, absolutely. Again, emotions, energy in motion. Energy vibrates at a certain frequency. So what you see is, again, if we can hold those higher emotions, peace, joy, love, and the understanding that there is a oneness in all, we're all a fractal of source, having an experience from a slightly different perspective and angle, and that makes it so that one size never fits all. And yes, be a unique version of you. That's the highest potential that you have, is to just simply be true to yourself. When we look to this tuning fork, of which Cindy has 100, easy, they're everywhere, chakras and solfeggio frequencies, so you can see, again, each chakra having a different frequency. Sometimes you'll see that people equate slightly different frequencies with different chakras. And again, that's just a matter of perspective. So again, you need to go in and do it for yourself and feel for yourself, sense for yourself what it is that rings true to you, and be willing to shift perspective. If something all of a sudden hits you and you just can't look at the world through the same lens, that's wonderful, because you are evolving. Yes, there is a creation, there is a creator, there is a purpose and pattern throughout this manifest universe, yet at the same time, it's all about growth. So that's evolution. And so we have both. And again, they always want to kind of give us, okay, which side of the fence are you going to stand on? Well, there's no fence. It's like in the Matrix. How did that boy bend the spoon, Neo or girl? The reality is there is no spoon. It's all an illusion. It's all really all about our frequency. There's nothing more important than your frequency. That's really the reality, because again, when we start moving out of the body, as far as what one of our dear friends, who had she died technically, was dead for a while and then came back and had a life-changing experience. And then other people too that we've gotten this from as well, and it's even come through the guides too. The highest point you could hit in this life is where you can explore right after we leave the body. So what is the highest point you've touched? What is the highest frequency you've experienced embodied? Well, that is kind of going to give you the immediate parameters, boundaries, so to speak, vibrationally, frequency-wise, of where you're going to be able to explore when we leave the body.
So very important to figure things out while we're in the body, because we have more momentum, we have more density. This is the place where where rubber meets the road. I mean, where things seriously happen is when we're in this body. So anything that is painful, if you have the wherewithal to even look at it, go you. Absolutely go you. So many people are in a lot of pain in this world and they can't even look at why. It's just not in them right now. And I'm not poo-pooing anybody who can't, because I get it. There's still some things in my life that I can't look at right now. But I will. And in the meantime, while I'm preparing to look at those things, I am putting my spiritual practice into practice every single day. So when the time does come, I'm going to be able to take a peek and it's not going to crumble me. So I think with this thing that happened with Mike, he nearly lost his life. It was forcing me to stand up. It's like, okay, little one, it's time for you to stand. You've had some rough and tumbles and I know it's scary to walk, but here you go. So, it was really scary, but he's here. And I realized that I can walk, I can expand. There's a lot of things I can do that I wouldn't have tried otherwise. This was a really scary thing, but he's here and we made it and I made it. So I would never take that expansion away from myself. So you see how the bad things in life are not really bad. You look at them as expansion, and as soon as you start to look at them as expansion, then you expand, and then you go up in that frequency, and you thank the other frequency. I don't even like to call it a lower frequency, but you thank the other frequencies for helping you have that experience of a higher place, higher order.
Yes, absolutely. And we thank you guys for your love and support. We couldn't do it without you guys. So when you look at this chart, 174 hertz, remove physical and energetic pain. 285 hertz, influence energy fields. 396, turning grief to joy, liberating guilt and fear. Yes, that's exactly what we need to do. I think back to that song. Who was it? Was it Don Henley or was it the Eagles? Forgiveness. You know that song, Forgiveness. That's where it starts. We need to stop all these incessant wars. We need to forgive each other because we've all been deceived by this system. And then we need to move higher. When you look to 417, undoing situations, facilitating change. 432, tone of nature and natural order. 432 was the frequency that was utilized for middle C until the Rockefellers changed it and made 440 because on purpose they want to keep the vibrations low. The controllers of this dark matrix are demonic entities, and they are absolutely beings that want to keep you in the same range that they are. But we're the pen is open, and it's time for us to fly high. 528, transformation and miracles, repairing DNA. 639, relationship with spiritual family. 741, awaken divine intuition. 852, return to spiritual order. And 963, promotes oneness. That is the great mystery of the universe, is ultimately it's all one. We are one. So, again, there's lots of ways to visualize these things, visualizing the chakras as blooming flowers. You want to keep those flowers healthy and wide open, and also that it will enable you to move freely through many different densities. Turn that frown upside down, Charlie Brown.
There is a way without ignoring our problems. There's a way to do that without spiritual bypassing and just sweeping things under the rug. But it does requires trusting yourself and a trusted friend and somebody that you can be fully honest with. And then you can see how you don't have to bypass it. You can actually walk through it, which feels so much better. But somebody also mentioned in the chat about astrology. Astrology is such a wonderful tool. I mean, it helps you see yourself in that third person way. So it takes the ego out of it. You can see yourself in a third person way, so it's easier to look at. And the whole point is whatever is going on inside of you, and we all have issues, it's important that you at least look at it and work on finding a path, because we are here to expand and grow. So that means we do have to face things, and it's how are we going to face them and how are we going to grow? And astrology is really helpful for that.
Absolutely. You can sleep soundly knowing that you have guides, you have angels, you have divine beings, you have starseed family, light workers all around you all the time. They're coaching you, they're cheering you on. It's up to us to do the work, though. That's the thing. Nobody's coming to save us. That entire concept, again, takes away our own responsibility and our own decision making. So it should be just obvious. And our own victories.
Our own victories. Let's not forget that. Even the baby victories, the little victories, every victory is a victory and should be celebrated to the highest degree.
Absolutely. So, do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com. We have many more testimonials to put up too. We just had run out of room and we got hacked and they took them down, but we have others that have come right back in, going back like 10 years and more. Again, we've worked on thousands of people. So when you look to experienced energy workers, we definitely have experience. And again, to reach us, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. All the info about what we do and the recommended pricing of the different services is on every single video. So just expand the more info and you'll see it all right there. As always, guys, we love you. We give you thanks and gratitude for supporting us on Patreon, also as a member on White Tea. Couldn't do it without you guys. May you all be blessed, happy, and whole.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.